rise with the opening prayer. In the Father, and the
The
Son,
Son,
and
the
the
Holy
Holy Spirit.
Spirit. Amen.
Good morning, class.
Good morning, ma'am.
Okay, so is there any option for today?
None, ma'am.
Okay, that's a great idea. So before we dive into our topic for this morning, I have a question first. So, class, how do you define learning? Yes, Miss Jamaica.
Learning is the process of acquiring knowledge and skills through experience.
Okay, that's a great idea. So now, Miss Jamaica, how can you measure learning, or how do you measure learning?
Uh, Learning can be measured through the correctness of action, timing, and consistency.
Okay, that's a great idea. So do you think that an athlete or an individual should be given ample or enough time to practice a specific skill?
Yes, ma'am.
Alright. So why do you think that an athlete or an individual should be given ample time to practice a skill?
Because it helps the athlete or an individual to strengthen and develop the skill more.
Alright, that's a brilliant idea. So, giving ample time or enough time to an athlete to practice a skill helps them to improve and develop the skill more and to have that accuracy and consistency of the skill. Since we are talking giving ample time to practice a skill to an athlete, for this morning we are going to tackle the overlearning and learning motor skills, including distributed practice and other variable practice. But before we are going to go over to our discussion, let us see our objectives first. So our objectives is, can we read Miss Jamaica?
At the end of the lesson, the student should be able to explain the principles of motor learning and the impact of various practice variable on skills acquisition, including distributed practice, massive practice, and variable practice. Reflect their own experiences in learning new motor skills. Perform a new motor skill, such as a specific athlete movement, demonstrating improvement in performance through the application of distributed practice and feedback mechanism through play.
Alright, so I hope that these objectives will be achieved at the end of our lesson. Class, so what do you think is overlearning, or how would you define overlearning in your own words? Yes, Miss Kiki.
I think it's the act of having time to practice or
Yes.
learn a specific skill.
Alright, that's a good idea, Ms. Jamaica. So overlearning is the continuation of practice beyond the amount needed to achieve a certain performance criteria. So for example, if you're a coach, a teacher, or a therapist, they use the overlearning strategy by establishing a specific performance criteria to determine the amount needed by a learner to attain a specific criterion. What could be the possible examples of performance criterion? Can you give me at least two or three, Miss Jamaica?
I think some examples of performance criterion are the accuracy, speed, and consistency.
Okay, that's great. So now let's proceed to overlearning strategy can lead to poor test performance. So now, Miss Jamaica, can you give me an instances or a situation wherein overlearning strategy can lead to poor test performance?
I think it is because overlearning often occurs in a single extended session or the massed practice, which is less effective for long-term retention compared to learning sessions that is spread out over time.
Okay, thank you, Miss Jamaica. When we say learning sessions that is spread out over time, it refers to distributed practice or the practice distribution. So practice distribution, sometimes referred to as the spacing out practice, has been a popular research topic in motor learning for many years. Distributed practice involves breaking practice into shorter, more frequent sessions spread over a longer period of time. So for example, practicing to shoot a ball in basketball for 30 minutes a day over a week instead of having your practice 3 hours per day. The thing is the advantage of distributed practice, Ms. Katipay?
With distributed practice, each session is shorter, which helps maintain higher levels of attention and prevents the decline of focus that often occurs during longer study periods.
So, thank you, Ms. Jamaica. That's a great idea.
Go.
So distributed practice helps an athlete to improve and have a more better retention that usually leads to an effective performance. So there are two variable practice, and these are the frequency of augmented feedback and the variable practice. So can you read the frequency of augmented feedback, Ms. Jamaica?
Frequency of augmented feedback is how often you give additional information provided to learner about their performance, which supplements intrinsic feedback.
All right, thank you. So, why do you think that it is very important to give an augmented feedback to learner or an athlete?
So it helps the athlete to reinforce positive behaviors and efforts, boosting the learner's motivation and confidence.
All right, thank you, Ms. Jamaica. That's a great idea. Now let's proceed to variable practice. So variable practice conditions expose learners to different versions of task or skill in various contexts. So for example, a soccer player is practicing to shoot a ball in different situations, different angles, different conditions, or with the defenders or with the different weather condition. So why do you think, Ms. Katipa, it is important for an athlete to have a variable practice?
I think, Mom, it's important for the athlete to make it easier for them to transfer skills to new or unfamiliar situations.
Alright, thank you, Ms. Jamaica. That's a great idea. Variable practice exposes learners to a range of situations, tasks, or contexts, making them easier for them to transfer skill to a new or unfamiliar situation. So, for the last question, Ms. Katipay, how do you think or how important it is to use the overlearning strategy, the variable practice, and the feedback mechanism to an athlete?
I think it is essential in maximizing athlete development, adaptability, and performance. By integrating these strategies into training programs, coaches can help athletes reach their full potential and achieve success in their respective sports.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Jamaica. That's a brilliant idea.
Go.
So now let's proceed to our activity. So one group only, and in your group, you are going to make a role play demonstrating the improvement in performance through the application of distributed practice and feedback mechanism. So it's up to you what specific skill will you use, but just make sure that feedback mechanism and variable practice is present in your presentation. So you are graded based on the rubrics I have here with me. I'll just distribute the rubric. So you are only given 5 minutes to prepare and 1 minute for your performance. So now go to your group and proceed. Alright, thank you for your performance class. You all got 20 points. So I hope that you'll do great next time. So now let's proceed to your short quiz. Get a 1/4 sheet of paper and you are going to answer the 5 items question. Okay, time is up. You can now pass your paper. So for your assignment, you are just going to research a video about overlearning strategy and you are going to present it in the class together with your short explanation. So I hope that you learned a lot for this morning. Thank you and God bless. Goodbye, class.
Bye,
Bye,
ma'am.
Mom.